Let this be a reminder to you all that this organization will not tolerate failure.
The side of the federal building has been blown off. Jesse?
They believe they were part of a CIA project called MK Ultra.
Just like a segment of society that is not living in reality.
In a certain sense, we're kind of a little bit more Israel's vassal state.
There are police chiefs facilitating prostitution networks.
Do you understand? It's all in your head. It's your move.
Oh, hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another morning dump. Today is a dual stream. You got the No Way Jose podcast, Underclass podcast combo here. That means it'll go out on both our RSS feeds, both our Rumbles. You do have the Rumble set up. It's not. I'm not seeing the top right hand.
Oh shit! I didn't set it up in the StreamYard, dude.
No, you did all that and you fucked it up. Okay, well never mind. It's just only on my Rumble today. But
wow.
Yeah, so all right, what's up, guys?
Oh my
it's
god!
It's sort of a underclass podcast production as well. Because if you guys have been caught, like whenever I'm hosting, it goes up on my Rumble. It goes up on all my platforms. And like say when Austin's not hosting, like it goes up on all of his platforms except for Rumble and his RSS feed. Just because like that'd be too much of a pain in the ass for us to like, if you're not hosting it, to do that every time. That'd be ridiculous. Also, it feels weird. It's technically not a No Way Jose podcast if I'm not there. So like, you know what I mean? So, but I don't know. This is branding confusion. But yeah, sorry guys. Sorry for Austin's Rumble audience. One day we'll get together. But we got a good amount of Rumble people over from my side of things. I just recently hit 1,000, which takes a long time on Rumble. So
nice.
Thanks everybody for that. That now I look serious on Rumble as opposed to sub 1,000. So. But yeah, are you looking around trying to see if you can't like somehow salvage it, or is that what you're doing right now? I see your eyes starting
deleting it, dude. Honestly, like I'm frustrated that I did that.
Yeah,
but
I should have said something before we started. I didn't. To be fair, I didn't know, so we started. So, oh well, it's up on our YouTube, the Rumble, where most people watch it live anyway. Well, not your Rumble, obviously. So it is what it is. Oh well, but it's a weekend. It's par for the course for things to be a little bit off. We have some interesting stories for you guys today. We have quite a bit. We got Syria stuff. I guess we could probably go ahead and get started into that right off the bat. Let's go ahead and get it started talk about the Syria shit. We have over 1,000 reported killed, mostly civilians, as HTS Syrian forces attack Alawites, which I'm going to be completely frank with you. I don't even know what the fucking Alawite is. I don't know if you do. I know that we have different forces over in Syria that don't like each other. That's basically my summation of it. And we destabilized the fuck out of them recently, and here's the result. All the shit that we kind of said was probably going to happen is happening.
I'm pretty sure it's just representative of sort of like the Sunni Shia divide in the ideological framework of the area, the ethno-religious area, which is specifically, I believe, it's a sect of Islam that splintered. So it's definitely Shia. So it's at odds with any of the Sunni majority, ideological jihadists, right? Like Jelani's group of HTS Al Qaeda, right? Mercenaries, basically, or moderate rebels, we should say, I guess. But yeah, that's as far as I know.
For most people, though, I know how this has been seen so far is if you're on social media, you may have seen a slew of these already, videos of essentially what looks like military forces essentially just slaughtering civilians. So, which I believe this is the HTS forces, which is the ones that we sort of ushered in, essentially
Oh,
what
yeah.
is it, the Al Qaeda fuck, that dude, the one who took over for Assad,
Jelani.
and we had a big part in essentially was kind of our what's the word I'm looking for,
Proxy force.
yeah, our
I
proxy
mean, I
force
know
over there.
that
Yeah.
he was in direct communication with the State Department. I mean, that was proven that he was in talks with Blinken, like essentially taking orders. Like he's been the leader of a proxy force for the U.S. that were deemed moderate rebels at a certain point, and then leveraged for the benefit of the West. But yeah, that's essentially what happened. Is another regime change operation utilizing these moderate rebels, which are just Al Qaeda
Yeah.
jihadist types,
Which is
to overthrow Assad.
Which I do find it odd, because when this first regime change did happen, there was a lot of like, there was all this talk from I forget what they're called, or the HTS or whatever, where and I can never remember the name of it. Was Jelani? Is it the name of the guy that runs
Yeah,
it or whatever?
Jelani.
Jelani.
Yep.
Lots of talks about like, oh, how we're going to be friendly with Israel, and it's like they're completely sounded like they were trying to play the like, we're going to be the perfect little puppet, and this almost feels like the puppet said "fuck you." But I mean, if anyone, for those who paid attention to how this shit went down when Assad bounced a while back, when Jelani's forces advanced and he was like, oh shit, this looks rough, I'm getting the fuck out. Went to Splitsville. Things got rough, and there was some there was some political power games going on to where we ushered them into this, which we'll get into in a second. But either way, God, what was I fucking getting at? Oh, the point. God, I had a fucking point. I totally just completely blanked it. Been doing this a lot lately. I swear I'm not stoned. Fuck. What was the point? Well, they were they were playing the game. They were playing the game of being the perfect puppet. But Israel, after the fall of Assad, they encroached on their territory, took over some of the territory. That's what I was getting at. And they were like, oh, this is going to be a buffer zone, and they never really moved out. And there were, I believe, from my recollection, because I'll be honest, Syria is one of those ones I haven't been paying attention to as well. It seems there were appeals from the Jelani government, kind of be like, yo, fuck off, right? Like, and that it seems to be that wasn't taken to heart at all. So it seems to be that they're just kind of almost being like, well, fuck it. I don't really give a shit about playing this being a perfect little puppet game. I'm just going to be the butchers that we are. Because it definitely, I mean, is that your perception as well? Because it feels like it was, especially right off the bat when they first came in, they're like, we're the nice terrorists and we're gonna have a nice cup. Like that was the feeling. But obviously those who were hip to the parapolitical game are like, these people are like a hair string away from like going full blown genocide. So,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
this provides further pretext for Israel and the region as far as like the providing this narrative of um a potential immediate threat in the southern Syrian region. So basically, Israel needs to be involved in that area as well, which I find very interesting, especially considering how like there have been like many different, like the Jerusalem Post even they published an article attempting to explain how the control of Syria by this proxy force could inevitably help Israel's complete essentially like their complete destruction of
Here's
Gaza
how all
to
this stealth and
continue
destruction
because
helps Israel.
yeah, exactly. In essence, it basically provides this sort of pretext for this Middle Eastern, escalation to consistently continue in the wrong direction. And so post Assad, you have all these alleged threats of clearly the risk of these extremist groups, which we're seeing now, the consequences of, which inevitably happens each time a regime change operation takes place, especially when you have the more radical groups, as the proxy force emboldened in the area. So I definitely think that, especially considering, their footprint in Libya, and Lebanon. I mean, like honestly, they're consistently, especially Lebanon, right? Like as far as like they're not giving back any of the territory, right, that they've occupied at this point. So I'm very much under the impression that this falls perfectly in place with the overall escalation foreign policy wise for Israeli interests.
I do find it rich. I'm skimming through this article right now, and I guess Shara is what they're calling him now. Jelani. He changed his name. He
Yeah, he changed his name.
But I guess he said this is fighting against his security forces was an unforgivable mistake. He said he's reiterated his intention to monopolize weapons in the hand of the state. So essentially, he's framing this as the issue is that they're trying to demilitarize or weaponize these fighting groups. That's what his argument is. So essentially, this is kind of a weaponry issue. It is hard. Obviously, there's way more to it than that. But my point being is that this is kind of the tried and true. Oh, we got to take away your weapons so the state can protect you. So you're gonna monopolize weapons in the hand of the states, as he says exactly here. So obviously, it's a little bit of a low hanging fruit here to point out. But I thought it was kind of interesting that the cover here is we're taking the guns that way. We don't have to worry about violence, and we'll take care of you. That's the perception here. So, but now one of the main reasons I want to go in this is because this is kind of how this isn't the first time I've seen it too. I believe I saw Phil Labonte shared something that was like what did it say? It said something like for all these people say, if there were no Jews, there'd be peace over the Middle East. And it's like, for one, I don't think anyone would really say that. I would say if it wasn't for Israel, there would be more peace in the Middle East. I wouldn't say there would be peace in the Middle East, but there'd be more. That's my opinion. But even then, that point, the point is, you see people are pointing out that look at these Muslims killing Muslims, look at this awful shit going on, and forgetting, what the political situation was before this.
Dude, I'm seeing
real quick. So Loomer says, all the Jew haters on X are awfully quiet today, but all the Christians are being slaughtered by Muslims in Syria today. Islam is a religion of pieces, not the religion of peace. Let me know when the Jew haters accuse Israel of genocide. Speak out about this. Sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to get that out so we didn't forget it. Yeah.
I think it's funny that Isaac Cappy exposed Laura Loomer as being a Mossad asset and basically Israeli black cube, essentially, as far as how she's compromised, which makes a lot of sense. But it is interesting to see how she's kind of playing this game in the as far as just she's in the spotlight right now, and she's coming correct with some very interesting takes in regard to a lot of the recent hysteria circulating the Epstein files and certain things of that nature.
She came out being pretty shitty against them though, but hers came from a position of jealousy. Hers was just jealousy though. You could tell it wasn't strange, I'm standing on any sort of moral ground. She would have been doing the same exact thing if she was them.
Exactly.
So she's just upset that she wasn't them.
Right. But what I'm seeing though is that it seems as if Israel seizing on this Syrian chaos apparently in an attempt to strike military assets, as well as I guess Netanyahu is 5 days ago. He's apparently been demanding the demilitarization of much of southern Syria as well. Apparently, and then
is that? I'm assuming this is the same region with the Alawites that were. So he's also calling for the demilitarization of that group, the same exact group that they're killing. Obviously, this is just on the fly, so maybe we got some more details wrong here, just to be clear.
Yeah, no, but I mean, that's coming straight out of the New York Times, so. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's. I mean, shit. You know what I mean? But
I was just meaning if we got something a little bit off here, because I'm assuming that means that this is the same region, the same group that they were talking about. That they're trying to. They're also saying, oh yeah, you also should demilitarize that area, the same exact area where the Jelani forces are demilitarizing as well. You know what I mean? So it's like, we have a genocide going. I'm like, well, maybe don't genocide, but take away their guns.
Right. But then the spin that the Times uses is that this stokes fears of conflict with the country's new leadership, as if that is what is in question.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's sort of marching orders in my mind.
Yeah.
But,
I guess they're probably still the same, because it is like
they ratcheted up bombing too.
Yeah. Because it was as I said, they initially when they first came in as the new puppet government, this kind of hi, we're the new puppet government. I'm no longer the Al Qaeda affiliate Jelani. I'm now Shara, and we love Israel, and we are looking forward to having a government of equality. It's going to be great. And then next thing you know, they're fucking killing their religious and political enemies. And it seems like is this part of the plan? Is the idea that way they can go, for all the stuff earlier, they can go, oh fuck. I mean, because for one, like the whole like the initial when Shara Jalani whatever had that nice face on initially, that takes the heat off of us in Israel, because we're like, oh yeah, Assad did like kind of suck, and like this guy seems like he's kind of sort of being cool. Although anyone who pays attention knows, oh shit, this isn't good. I guess I kind of took, maybe that was the play they wanted at that point. Maybe I was wrong in my summation of this as them being like, fuck you, we're not going to be a good puppet, because this does advance Israel's interests as well. Like, them continuing their fighting. I mean, obviously it's better for Israel off the jump for them to be chill, because it's like, hey, we just did some crazy shit, like maybe be chill for a minute before you start getting wild.
But why else have these assets in place if you can't leverage them and flex them when the time comes, right? Especially if it benefits you specifically in the moment, whether you can. I mean, dude, it's just honestly amazing to me how people are unaware of how much manipulation on the world stage there truly is in regard to just foreign policy news coverage as well. You know what I mean? It's very interesting to once you kind of realize that you have in modern day, we've had whistleblowers come out who've been running news publications who have claimed that they've been entirely given scripts and bribed by the CIA and various intelligence cutouts and front companies that work on behalf of the CIA, and that they, without a doubt, they give them news pieces to run, and then they also provide them the spin. And we've had whistleblowers who've come out on their deathbeds essentially and attempted to kind of provide some sort of accountability for this framework of dishonesty that very much is about manipulating public perception on a grand scale. And so I think anytime we see like chaos such as what is taking place as the aftermath and inherent consequences of a proxy conflict, right, in modern day, which always ends in this sort of fashion, right?
Yeah.
It's just going to be spun to solely benefit, right, the ruling class and the goals that they hope to achieve. So my mind is much more in line with the recent statements that Trump's made about Iran, this major pivot potentially taking place in regard to the real total escalation that I've been concerned with for quite some time, because it all falls within Israeli interests as well to kind of pursue this going forward. And it's very interesting to me that this sort of at any point they could replace Jelani, with a new puppet. It's not that difficult. You're in a sort of post-Iraq scenario, right, with a post-Saddam government type of situation here. This is a very chaotic situation in Syria, and the foreign policy implications are, I mean, this is a Russia border state, effectively with a lot of, military bases that will have a very large impact on the world stage if they fall into the wrong hands. And believe me, like, you already know that the U.S. State Department is well aware of that, so anyway, yeah, I'm very much concerned about this potential escalation with Iran as well, man. Like,
Yeah.
it seems like it's
Yeah,
happening.
if anyone wants is really like wants to sees this situation as kind of like, oh look, the Muslims killing Muslims, and like, I don't know, we had nothing to do with this. Here's Dave DeCamp reminding us his reporting back from December a few months ago. This is a report. The U.S. had forward knowledge of HTS offensive to topple the Assad and prepared other rebel groups to join. The U.S. helped the RCA, a militia based out of a U.S. military base in southern Syria, coordinate with Al-Qaeda linked to HTS. So a U.S. military base. So this militia, this militia is literally housed in one of our military bases. To
That's
that
so
extent, and they
ridiculous.
literally, helped them out essentially. But no, we didn't do it. We only housed them, gave them intel, probably trained them, probably gave them arms. But no, that wasn't us. So that's how this game is played. I mean, this is And we've been playing both sides of this situation for a long time, depending on which way the political wins. We were on one point on Assad's side fighting Al Qaeda, because for those aren't aware, essentially this for a long time it has been Al Qaeda versus Assad here, and Al Qaeda won. That's who's running this place now. Al Qaeda. Jelani is straight up Al Qaeda. So we've been on both sides of this issue, fighting against Assad and fighting against Al Qaeda. It just so happens, I believe, Syria happens to take up a portion of Greater Israel. So I don't know, maybe that has something to do with it. But either way, just worthwhile reminding you guys the reality of the situation. That's like. This is also likely probably due to Israel concerns. They don't want stabilized governments in the area, considering pretty much all the stable governments in the area aren't a fan of what they're doing in their own country. Like the whole Palestinian thing's kind of been a big thing for a long time. And we're literally paying off every country to be cool with them. And then the smaller, more upstart countries are a little bit more abrasive to that idea and less likely to go along. And it's like, well, we can just topple those administrations and we can destabilize the area. And then now it's just a bunch of disparate militia groups who can't do shit anyways. Yeah. So that's kind of the situation on the ground. But yeah, let's move on, I guess, to another topic now. I did get just saw a notification from a patron. They were asking about my Democracy the God That Fails series. I do have that. I haven't finished it. We got to somewhere in around like 15 to 20 parts. So go check that out. It's on my playlists. Go to YouTube, go to playlists, Democracy the God That Fails. That's for my patron Tord May that asked that. But yeah. Anyways, that's what's going on over there. I hate to say I told us so, but we told us so. So here we are. Yeah, and this doctor said, I don't really care about anything that happens over there, and there's a large percentage of Americans that feel the same way. Yeah, same here. It's just the problem is that we get caught up in this, like, oh, we need to get involved, and it's like, well, okay, well, look what happened getting involved. What happens there?
Yeah, I care about the fallout of our policies and how they affect, complete.
And then people act like they're amnesia. Like that's the biggest thing that bugged me about this. Everyone acting like amnesiacs and being like, I bet you none of these anti-war people or anti-whatever will say anything about the Muslims killing all the anti-Israel people, and you're like, what? Like, do you not realize why it's like this in the first place? Like,
I think we all struck the lottery when we were born here, right? And so for the life of me, I have no understanding how anyone cannot kind of make that connection directly just to the human experience. And so that alone, major injustice at all times. Our foreign policy is creating this tragic chaos, right? Utter destabilization. I mean, you see what's happening in Gaza. This is all due to our taxpayer dollars. So that is why, I'm mostly concerned about our foreign policy and have been for quite some time. But it was kind of what drew me into this area of interest to begin with. Was right just the unethical aspects of our foreign policy and the Ron Paul-esque philosophy that really kind of helped me understand just isolationist as far as just how isolationist policies in the realm of General Wesley Clark said Syria was one of 7 that we'd topple after 9/11. 100%, bud. And Iran's on the list as well, and it's on. So that's why I'm concerned, especially just seeing the statements that Trump specifically has just made, right? But I did like the fact that he wrote to Iran allegedly calling for a new nuclear pact, right? I think
I've been saying this for a while. He would love to have the nuclear deal again and have it could be damn near the same exact thing as Obama's deal, and he would love it. It's just that that's what he's wanted since 2016, in my opinion, but he's gone about it entirely wrong. He's wanted a new nuclear deal that way he can put it on him and say, I'm the one who brought peace to Iran. Now we're at a peace. Whereas everyone the boomer talking point before that was how bad Obama's was, and so then that's like he comes in, you're like, well, I'm gonna fucking have my own nuclear deal. So he throws at that one, and then it's just shitty to them and fucking putting sanctions on them forever. And they're just like, from their position, they're like, dude, what the fuck? Fuck you, dude. What are you doing? But I do think, and I do really think he has really wanted the deal the entire time. I think there are probably players below him or around him that probably would like to undermine that, or use that to their advantage. Be like, you should be more shitty to them, and then maybe you'll get your deal. But it does seem like that's been the angle. He would love to be able to put his name on a nuclear deal, but likely that's making us get more. Unfortunately, his methods of getting there seem to actually get us closer to conflict with Iran. So,
yeah. We'll see. I know they perfectly understand that we never act in good faith in terms of remaining within the confines of these established deals, such as the Iran nuclear deal to begin with. When Obama made that deal and Trump, pulled out of it, even Obama himself said on Israeli news television, that it was to placate the Saudis, essentially, right? And so I don't know, man. Like,
it was in reference to the Houthis, wasn't it? The Houthi stuff. I believe that.
Yeah.
The whole killing of or essentially embargoing the Yemenis. That was that. All right, I have another story. I think you'll really dig, Austin. I think you guys will too. I don't know if it was one of you guys that tagged me in it, or it just so happened to come across my feed. If it was one of you guys, I'm sorry.
One last statement that Trump made on Iran, though, was just that the fact that he said there will be some interesting days ahead. That's all I can tell you. We're down to final strokes with Iran. That's going to be an interesting time. We'll see what happens. It was kind of interesting watching it.
It's kind of hard to say because there were also stories that Russia was going to get in the mix and help with diplomacy. There seems to be a lot of things that hint towards wanting diplomacy. I don't know. I don't think we're going to have any sort of. I mean, I think diplomacy may not happen because Israel might get in the way because they hate that shit. But like, I don't know. I don't think we'll see any hostilities. At least not now. Maybe we'll see a pivot here soon. That's my read of the situation. Completely just pattern noticing. I could be completely wrong. Maybe I'm being too optimistic. I just don't sense that right now. But I did want to go into this story. This is up near you, Austin. And I actually have two articles for this one because obviously we're starting from the end and we're gonna work back. This article right here is 2 men arrested after reportedly trying to kill possible witness in Sheng Thao corruption case. And then after this, we're gonna go read an article to kind of let you know about the Sheng Thao corruption case. So that in and of itself is interesting. But let's go through this article. This is in Oakland, California. 2 men have been arrested after reportedly trying to kill a possible witness in the corruption case involving former Oakland Mayor Sheng Thao. The Chronicle reports the men shot at Mario Juarez back in June, a few days before the FBI raided the homes of Thao and Duong family. The Duong family plays a big part in this. You guys will see this in a bit. Who own Cal Waste? The Duong family own Cal Waste. Juarez, described by the paper as a businessman and political operative, was not hurt. Oakland police arrested the 2 men in December. They have since been freed. The paper did not name them. The Chronicle said police had no additional information and that the Alameda County District Attorney declined to file charges. Ooh, shit. I did not. Okay, once again, if you guys aren't aware of the show, typically, very rarely do I read things ahead of time. This is real raw reactions, baby. That is, that's okay. This was a spooky story to begin with. Now it's already supposedly these men tried to kill someone and they didn't even they declined to file charges. It's not clear if the attempted killing was related to Juarez's involvement in the corruption probe. The Chronicle reports federal documents suggest that the shooting and the FBI investigation are connected. Juarez is quoted in the paper as saying, "Why was I targeted? Because I know too much." So that's the story on like what happened. There's this Juarez guy. Obviously, we don't know the specifics on how, but he is a witness in the corruption case. So wow, that's so back in June, these 2 men shot at him, and then in December they arrested him. So it took 6 months to arrest them for attempted shooting, and then they didn't name them, and they released them, and they didn't file any charges. That's nuts, dude. Oof. All right, well let's get to what I think. All right, that's already fishy to begin with. Let's go to this story now. So who are the Dongs? Family charged in Sheng Thao's indictment. Now, just to let you go, just to breeze over the Sheng Thao. She's the former mayor of Oakland. I mean, I almost brought up a story that kind of goes into possible election shenanigans when it comes to her, because apparently she only won by like something like 700 votes or some shit. So it was a close election, and given the corruption and the people that she was paying off and stuff. It looked like she was like kind of an influence op to some degree. It's heavily implied maybe she kind of stole the election. So, but either way, then now the Duongs, I think, is where the interesting connection is here. This is a family that was also charged. Now, there's multiple people charged that I've seen so far. You have Sheng Thao, the former mayor, and then you have her boyfriend, who's like some black dude, and then you have the Duongs, which I believe are some sort of like, I want to say like Vietnamese or something, family that owns a big waste company in that area. So it kind of feels like mob shit. But all right, let's keep going. Former Oakland Mayor Sheng Thao has been indicted by a federal grand jury on criminal charges related to an FBI bribery case. The DOJ announced Friday, and this is back in January, by the way. 6 months after agents raided her home and 2 months after she was voted out of office. Tao's longtime boyfriend, Andre Jones, and David Duong and his son, Andy Duong, were also charged in the indictment. U.S. Attorney Patrick D. Robbins and the defendants used bribes, mail fraud, wire fraud, and other illegal practices to manipulate and corruptly influence local government. Robbins said the defendants knowingly entered into agreements knowing that bribes would be offered and accepted by Thao and Jones in exchange for allowing the Duongs to exercise a legal influence over the levers of city government. Who are the Duongs? The family owns Callaway Solutions, Oakland's recycling company, which also provides junk pickup in San Jose, and an integrated waste management facility in their native Vietnam. According
Some
to
recycling company, is that what they were using? Because
a
yeah,
recycling
it seems
company,
like
which would be
they
a
were
good way to get rid
laundering
of
money.
bodies. Just saying.
Oh
you know.
yeah, it
This
looks
would
like
be-
they were laundering like over $100 million potentially.
Yeah,
That's
it looks-
so crazy,
This
man.
is pretty wild. Yeah. According to the family's website, the Duongs escaped the Vietnam War and settled in San Francisco, where they tout their humble beginnings. So this is supposedly, they left in the Vietnam War and somehow made it big to be one of the biggest, waste providers in I would assume the state. 16 members of their family lived in 2 studio apartments for a while, according to the family story. David Duong, the eldest of the siblings, learned about recycling from his parents, who owned the largest paper mill in South Vietnam. There goes the humble beginnings.
Mhm.
And he became the president and CEO of Callaway Solutions. Sister Christina Duong became the CFO, and brother Victor Duong became the VP. The Duongs say they have established the largest recycling company in Northern California, employing 300 employees. It's not a very large company. If anything, that's pretty tight. For the Duong family, this venture is about more than business. It's about giving back to the communities that have given so much to them, even the home they were forced to leave more than 40 years ago, the family stayed on site. In 2014, the Oakland City Council awarded California Waste Solutions a $1 billion contract. This is 300 people in this company to run the city's collection services over waste management, a much larger company that had also bid for the job, the Oakland side reported. Okay, so this looks like a kind of almost like Augusta affair type stuff, like buying out for... In 2017, the city of Oakland sued California Waste Solutions for allegedly overcharging some landlords of multi-unit buildings and making millions of dollars of additional profit. Oakland alleged that Cal Waste was charging 550% of what their contracts allowed. The company filed a countersuit against the city. The parties agreed to a settlement in 2021 where California Waste Solutions would refund landlords over $6 million and reduce their monthly premium service rate. Settlement required that Cal Waste refund approximately 2,000 multifamily building owners of those years for overcharging and lower their rates for backyard service for recycling carts going forward. Blah, 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 whatever. 2019 investigation. In 2019, they launched an investigation into allegations that they had been funneling illegal campaign contributions to at least 5 Oakland City Council candidates, including Thao, as well as city council candidates in El Cerrito and San Jose from 2013 through 2018. A month later, California's campaign finance watchdog, the Fair Political Practice Commission, opened an investigation into Andy Duong related to laundered campaign contributions, state records show. That investigation is still not resolved, the Chronicle reported. In July 2023, Duong was named in a warning letter issued by the FPPC. The watchdog found that a committee he's associated with, Duong Family Investments LLC, failed to disclose itself as a major donor in 2018 and warned that it could face fines of $5,000 per violation in the future. In records made public as part of a lawsuit, Public Ethics Commission's investigators claimed that Andy and David Duong used straw donors to disguise the money they were giving to Oakland council members. The Oakland Side reported a straw donor is someone who gives money to a campaign and is secretly reimbursed by the person who really is putting up the money. So they were just kind of putting money through other things. All right, links to politicians. Despite their troubles, Duongs know politicians at every level in the country. Their social media is a virtual of who's of powerful politicians.
Yeah.
Photos of himself with District 6, Lauren
Gavin
Taylor,
Newsom.
Gavin
Joe
Newsom.
Biden. Yeah,
Yep.
dude.
Yep,
It's
Newsom,
hilarious.
Biden, which, I mean, they are political entities. They've taken pictures of California Attorney General Rob Bonta and his wife. I'm trying to see if there's anything worth. Okay, a bunch more hobnobbing with political
Dude.
folks.
In the indictment, it says after the election, the bribery scheme continues. It says on or about November 18th, 2022, Andy Duong and co-conspirator said, I exchanged messages regarding the mayoral election when it became evident that Thao was going to win the mayoral race and that another individual was winning the race to be Alameda County District Attorney. Co-conspirator texted, so we may go to jail, but we are $100 million richer. Andy Duong replied, money buys everything. And co-conspirator replied, you are right. Plus, we have a 10-year extension to recycling company, not named. Isn't that fucking hilarious? Like, it seems like these people are far too confident, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's very interesting, but it also seems like there must be so many of these operations, at play, and any given right in any given moment, that it's just like the level of corruption, I think, is far too difficult for the vast majority of us to even conceptualize.
Yeah. Let me go through a couple examples real quick, and then I'm basically done here. Examples or promises allegedly made by Thao include her agreement to purchase housing units from a company owned by the Duong family, her agreement to ensure the extension of a contract for recycling services the city of Oakland had with one of David and Andy Duong's companies, and her agreement to use influence to help appoint a high-level city official to benefit the Duong business interests. The Duong family also wired Thao and her boyfriend $95,000 disguised as wages for a no-show job for Jones, who is the boyfriend of Thao. So that's all I have on that. I mean, I did think it's interesting. Like, it's obviously incredible speculation area to go into, but this feels like mob shit. Like, this feels like the stuff that we talk about, like how this works. It's like, this is mob shit. Like, this is... they said they literally came from Vietnam during that whole thing. So it's like, and they before they left, their family had like the largest paper mill in the area. So is it really that crazy? I mean, it's kind of like the same vibe as like a Nazi rat line stuff. Same thing probably happens in other countries like Vietnam. Like when shit pop off there, like, hey, stuff's popping off here. You can be in cool with us. Would you, we'll kind of hook you up. You can come over here. You can move your business interests, blah, 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 blah. Like, I mean, we saw like a lot of the same sort of shit, money stuff when it comes to World War II and like in Germany, and like people connected into that economy. Is it really that crazy that some glowy figures got their hands in the pot? Like, hey, you're a pretty big entity around here. We'd that we both have incentives to work together, and now lo and behold, 20, 30, 40 years down the line, you see them and they're like, oh, now we're running a waste industry over here in the United States, doing what we did there. And you're like, I don't know, it's hard not to see it, to see the see the whole, kind of see how this plays out. And it's obviously the always the fucking waste solutions. It's always like, that's like the most stereotypical thing you could be. So yeah.
Dude, did you see I completely agree, by the way. I think it's a perfect example of government corruption at its best. This is how, I obviously, I don't believe in democracy. I think it's hilarious. It's a flawed, just inherently flawed as far as the philosophy behind it, the tyranny of the majority. I think voting is laughable, but I also think that this is how they compromise the system in every facet. And right, like why at all would we be shocked when we know how these operators function? We know that the currency in DC is sexual blackmail. So of course, money laundering and bribes and extortion is the name of the game. That is politics 101, right? Like, I mean, how else do you compromise the free world? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's moneyed interests rule the day, but always, it only really falls in line with the right what really amounts to the unelected bureaucrats and this sort of what is labeled as the deep state. You know what I'm saying? But in reality, this is just some sort of you know it's very much an aristocracy that I feel as if this is class warfare at every level, and we should acknowledge it as that far more often than we tend to do. And that's what it's a little annoying to me because I feel as if it's kind of lost in translation with people not being able to properly assess how power functions in this current paradigm as it's structured. And yeah, the level of corruption shows itself on a daily basis far more often than people are aware. And all you have to do is kind of be plugged in to those areas of interest for it to kind of cross your radar, and then also for you to remain skeptical of these narratives as they fall into your lap. But especially considering the new government CBDC initiative that's happening with the global digital currency summit that just took place, which we're all just supposed to ignore because uh, everything's better now. We're heading in a right in the right direction ethically. Look at all the things that we're being gifted as far as political victories in regard to the pivot away from Biden's policies. Man, are they really consequential? As far as the
Oh,
grand scheme of things.
we've literally broken down brass tacks on this show, on this morning show, where we showed the actual savings from Doge and then the current proposed spending. And obviously on both sides, I mean, you might hear people that I always bring up. People might cope and go, "Oh, well, there's going to be more savings for Doge." Well, there's probably going to be more spending too. So, I mean, here we are. We're like, I think we had, what was it, 150 billion budget, or was it 100 billion budget for the military? But I mean, even then, Doge hasn't even reached 100 billion. So just that alone is already exceeding the Doge savings. So, I mean, we're seeing, if you just look at the money, you just look at compare it. It's like, yeah, sure, comparably to the alternative, maybe you could say it's better than if we had although I'm not even entirely sure that's the case. Because if you had a Biden administration or Kamala or whoever the fuck, you probably have the Republicans in there are going to be more solidified against them. So I don't know. I don't even know if it would necessarily be worse overall, in the other situation, essentially. So I have no idea.
Tory 420. I'm not, in any way am I pushing back on that. I'm just pointing out the fact that there was absolutely no change in the policy direction with the new administration. So that's the point. The ultimate agenda is in play, despite which ideological preferences in the White House. And so here we are, tiptoe toward the totalitarian technocracy. Except we don't call it a CBDC because then you would have Trump supporters push back clearly and openly because they've been prepped and primed for that narrative, at the very least. I think many of them are at least aware of that fact being linked to the dystopian, vision of Klaus Schwab and the WEF. So now it's going to be re-implemented as stable coins. Yeah, but I'm just saying, like
that took me back. Like, is that what you call it, WEF, as opposed to
the World
WEF?
Economic Forum?
I've never heard someone call it WEF. It sounds like someone like lisping, like WEF. Like if someone's saying with a really bad lisp saying left or something, WEF.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. Is they're pivoting to the stable coins, and that is it's the new version of the CBDC. So you're totally right, Dr. Tory 420. That's why I'm pointing it out. And I think it's very interesting and something that we should be extremely focused on attempting to spotlight, because it is again another pivot into laying down that really that new age infrastructure, bringing together the 15-minute smart city paradigm with of course the high speed rails connecting the major cities in Los Angeles, and then you see what's happening in Myrtle Beach. Guess what? They're going to change the name to Meta Beach. This has been in the works for at least a few years now. these redevelopment initiatives and plans that have been pushed forward, and these various committees and groups within Myrtle Beach that have set the stage and kind of laid the foundation for this to take place. And you wonder why you have a sort of LA fire scenario take place, just a parallel to Hawaii as well, and Maui, and this is the exact same vision of the 15-minute smart city pivot. So yeah, it's a very strange occurrence that we're witnessing. But all you have to do is go pull it up, and Myrtle Beach will now become Meta Beach, and here we are again in the technocracy. So a smart city, buddy. Very
By the way, I
interesting.
see Marty here saying the Alawites are a specific branch of Islam that Assad was, and they believe in Ali as the leader
they're
after Mo.
As I said, they're a Shia. They're more of a Shia sectarian ideological perspective within.
The key point is though that's Mossad's contingency, like where he came from. So that's no, seriously, because that's what Assad was the one.
That's
who
why
left, so
Assad was kind of holding the lid on a lot of this chaos, because again, it's the same situation as Saddam Hussein in Iraq, where it's like you have this the Sunni Shia sectarian divide that most people are unaware is even a factor within the context of a lot of the diplomacy involved in that region. So of course it's a major factor.
Yeah, let's check this out. This is me and you actually talked about this on the phone just the other day, because I was just like, it's like this is how you have to. I think this is this does bring up some questions, which we'll get into. Let's go and play this. I don't know if it has subtitles or not. This is Netanyahu. I'll read it if it does. All right. Well, there are no subtitles, so never mind. Fuck that. We won't. There's no point in showing that. We'll just have to take it the word for it. I've seen other people running around with this, so we'll assume this is a correct interpretation here. It's from Khaleesi. It says, just in Netanyahu speaking about the Epstein client list, he puts all the blame on Ehud Barak. It says, for some reason, Ehud Barak is repeatedly invited to the studios, and strangely, he is not asked a single question on the subject. Because the media channels are not news channels. They are fake channels. They lie to the public in collaboration with the deep state. That's Netanyahu. He acknowledges the media is controlled. So that's Netanyahu. So we got that statement recently where he threw Ehud Barak, which we have talked about on this very show not long ago at all, about the litany of times that Ehud Barak has met with Epstein. The degree to which there were reports, I believe, from his bodyguard that, at one point Ehud and Epstein were like kind of sitting around with literally kind of like a whiteboard or something, talking about like almost like they were like drafting up game plans for Israel. They were literally talking about Israel. There are strong connections. There's also reports that he met Ehud through another Israeli prime minister. But I find it interesting that now it looks like at least Netanyahu is throwing his name out there, kind of throwing him under the bus, which is my understanding. Ehud and Netanyahu are kind of political enemies, is my understanding. I might be wrong reading the situation there. But either way, it's someone that it looks like they're throwing him under the bus, which narratively speaking, I think we need to be super aware of, because myself, I've been super guilty of it, and I guess because I wasn't anticipating anything like this. A lot of us are too. We go, oh, we're not getting any truth, and Epstein list, blah, blah, blah. Oh, because they're connected to Israel, Mossad, blah, 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 blah. I think there's a good chance they might lean hard into that, and lean so hard into it while also deflecting from like the Mossad and other major political entities. And it will kind of just be this Ehud thing, maybe kind of I already saw, we talked about this show too, we saw Mike Benz put out a tweet a while ago, kind of like, oh, look how many times Ehud met with Epstein. It's kind of weird how strong ties Ehud has with Obama. You're like, what? Like, so somehow, like, the idea is like, oh, generic, like, a vague, Democrat, deep state from like a BoomerCon perspective. Which if you were BoomerCon brain rot, yeah, you might be like, oh yeah, Netanyahu, he's against the deep state. He's with Trump. We're fighting the deep state. Yeah, okay, bud. So that does seem to be that could be the move. I'm just saying, keep your head on a swivel, because I guarantee you how this narratively will be spun will be Oh, look at you Jew haters. They charge Ehud Barak or whatever, and he died or he got convicted or whatever. Like we clearly, you look at this. Don't you guys look so stupid? They took down an Israeli prime minister. Meanwhile, no one really, like currently, like no Mossad, Intel connections probably get revealed. I'm just saying, keep your head on swivel because wouldn't be the least bit surprised if the move. They essentially subvert your expectations and kind of make us look stupid, make us eat our own words of being like, although technically we wouldn't really be eating our own words, but they can frame it in such a way to make it look that way. Because like what we're saying is like they're not going to expose Mossad or whatever. And I still agree with that. I still think they're not going to expose Mossad. They're not going to expose any meaningful current political actors. But somebody like an Ehud Barak, okay, maybe that's fair game. I'm kind of surprised they would give up somebody at this level, but I'm assuming that I'm correct about that. Netanyahu and him don't get along. Maybe he's someone who's got edged out politically a long time ago. So like whatever, they've edged out that contingency. He's some sort of political group that hey, we don't need them anymore. We can throw them to the wolves. So I don't. Any thoughts on that? I just find this to be particularly incredibly interesting. This is a shift here from at least this guy at least. I don't now how this plays out with other political leaders. I don't know. Is this all of them are going to follow suit, or is it just him trying some crazy move at them from Israel? I don't know.
I think it's interesting that Epstein arranged meetings between J.P. Morgan, Jamie Dimon, and Ehud Barak, right? And beyond that, it goes even farther than that because apparently Michael Chertoff, who came up in the Vegas shooting episode, right? And it turns out that Michael Chertoff is on the board of advisors for Carbine 911, the Israeli U.S. intelligence connected surveillance company marketed as a solution to mass shootings, which Jeffrey Epstein, Ehud Barak, and Peter Thiel invested in, man. Like that is the craziest connection ever. But you look into that.
Yeah,
and,
that Peter Thiel connection won't be looked into too much, I bet.
This is what I'm saying.
Oh
like,
shit, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you not realize this? Okay, this is a weird little side thing. Yesterday, it was a weird that I even brought up as a story, but literally the story was, hey, did you guys know that Eric Weinstein is the money manager for fucking Peter Thiel? I didn't know that. I just found that out yesterday. I don't know how I didn't know that.
Oh my god!
I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Oh yeah.
After all this,
managing director of yep. And by the way, you have Ian Carroll claiming how brilliant the man is, and
all
Joe
right, I
Rogan
also covered that, and in the
interest
of fairness, that was one
I'm
little
not. It's
statement.
not a character assassination. Again, it's just when you and again, like don't misinterpret my words here. Like
I just want to throw. I saw a lot of people jump on that, but he did like literally. I actually brought it up for the show because I thought like, oh, let's see what he has to say, and then as I said, real reaction. It literally was just. It was literally. I think I want to say this is an exact quote. I like him. He's smart, and I think that was it. So it's like. Well, I don't know. Like, and if you had caught me like a year ago, or even just like a few months ago, I'd probably be like, I don't know, I kind of like him. He seems smart. I mean, I might like now. Like I just found out about the Peter Thiel Capital thing like yesterday. I'm like now I'm like, holy shit, this dude. Like I already thought there was some weirdness, but it's like I don't know. It's yeah. But point being is to most people, I think they're like, yeah, he's smart. I like him. And I don't know. I don't know what to degree. Ian's really dug into everything. I think everyone likes to put on other people that they know everything that they know. Yeah. Because I didn't really. It wasn't even until just very recently that Weinstein being a glowy of some sort really entered my my radar. So
I was aware just because of his meetings with Epstein back in the day and the way that he put that forward on Rogan's podcast in the first place. It seemed very strange, and then I just dug into his background for a little while, and it didn't take long at all. I mean, obviously, like you said, he's the managing director of Teal Capital, and I think that when all of these people were swimming in the circles of the Edge Foundation, which I believe that understanding the primary financier of the Edge Foundation was Epstein himself. There's no coincidence, man. They continually attended the Edge Foundation, but beyond that, especially the usual suspects who are involved in the training courses there, very fucking weird.
Mhm.
But yeah, I understand. Smart dude. I like him. It's a in passing.
Yeah.
It's a brief just comment, and he is a
Mhm.
smart guy. So
Yeah.
I'm disputing that fact, but um, yeah, it's still managing director of Teal Capital, and you
Yeah,
combine
dog, you
that with
glow.
yeah, yeah. And my only concern is that I'm hoping this is my perspective on it. I'm hoping that you know the Ian's meteoric rise within the alternative media landscape is all due to the qualities and factors that make him attractive to an audience. The new present TikTok style presentation that is so attractive to a wider audience at this moment. In this sort of new aged information environment that could also make. Plus, he's not an unattractive guy. You know what I mean? Like there are plenty of different factors involved. He's a very well-spoken guy,
Yeah.
but so I'm not denying any of that. It's perfectly reasonable to imagine that he had some sort of natural rise. But where I have an issue is the fact that, and again, he at least responded to this and also responded. I thought Whitney Webb was in good form in her response to him sort of assessing her work on technocracy as unhinged on the Rogan episode, and I felt like it was funny because Sam put it in the terms of this. It was so funny, Jose. It was basically like because I had brought this up in a similar way on whatever this is, and he basically says, "Well, when you and Jose came on Wednesday," he goes, "You guys did so good, and it was amazing." And he's like, "But I can't just send that episode to anyone." He's like, if you send that episode to some normal, random normie who's yet to be exposed to a lot of this information, they would think you come off as unhinged, completely
Mhm.
unhinged. And I was just dying because it was a good point that should be made, because when you're too deep embedded into these kind of areas of interest and you're actively pursuing a lot of this research on a daily basis, then you can kind of like become a victim of your own kind of perspective and but it's still what I think is interesting is that he is until now he wasn't effectively criticizing the Teal network, which I found to be very strange, right? Only due to the fact that
You
you
would
know
assume he's a lefty. He's like you would
yeah,
assume that'd be right up his alley. Yeah.
absolutely. And beyond that, if you're attempting to objectively defend any sort of like administration in power, I think you should be objectively pursuing, the
Yeah.
critical, just any sort of criticism that is potentially credible. You should also pursue that information as well, so you have a well-rounded understanding of kind of
Yeah.
these how again how these creative personalities molded political puppets, kind of how they function in the first place, so you won't fall victim to a lot of this disinformation and misdirection and limited hangouts. But yeah, it's that part bothered me, but I felt like his reaction to it and his response, the 10-minute video, it was interesting. I listened to it. He addressed basically every aspect of it, even Peter Thiel he addressed, which I found interesting. And you know, he could be telling the fucking truth, man. But I also consider it very strange that he goes on and he essentially, and this also, again, go listen to it yourself, so you have the context. But it could be this sort of um, you know really just in my mind, it could be a sort of like naivete of some kind, where he's just crossed his radar, the Eric Prince Blackwater phone. But the idea that he would then go and sort of promote Eric Prince's Blackwater phone that was legitimately designed by Mossad and Israeli intelligence, with Peter Thiel financing behind it, I found it very noteworthy to at
Mhm.
the very least mention that fact, because again, that has been the number one criticism of Ian thus far, as
Yeah.
well as the fact that beyond Eric Prince's phone. And again, I think anyone claiming that Qatar or Qatar, however you want to say it, I think they changed the version of how you say it, but
I always say
it,
Qatar.
yeah, it's always been Qatar as far as I
It's
knew
the only
until
place I ever
recently.
got
It's
deployed to in the military too. So,
really
yeah,
that's
and
dude. Well, I'm just saying that also the the episode was sponsored by Oracle NetSuite on Rogan's podcast, which that fucking blew my mind, right? So the Larry Ellison connection to
yeah.
right, who by the way is pushing an mRNA vaccine for cancer, which is absolutely ridiculous, and was again entirely involved with the Sam Altman and the other individual in regard to this massive $1 billion AI infrastructure plan, right? And so yeah, I think at a certain point we have to be at least skeptical. I again think there's so much
Wait. Was
value.
it advertising? Are they running advertising? Is that what it is?
Well,
Is
it's
that what?
possible, but didn't
Okay,
seem like
because
it.
I
That
was
one
thinking
wasn't
about that
on
as you said that,
YouTube.
and I saw Doc Tory post that, and it's like, for example, you'd have to look into that because they're programmatic.
Yeah, look into it, man.
Program. Why am I having programmatic
Hmm.
ads? Is like essentially like for this show. Like if you're listening on audio, I have
Yeah.
no control over what ads come on there. It's just whatever's random.
Okay. It's
But
a
now, like there are
yeah.
now, obviously, I do actual reads for Nadeau, which by the way, I guess I forgot to do the read. So with that, if you want a cheaper, a better product, and from a company that doesn't hate your guts, Nadeau Shave Co. Use Jose at checkout for 10% off. Yeah, this is better than the multiple cartridges. This won't fuck up your face. Smoother shave, cheaper. From company doesn't hate you, it's 10% off using Jose. So I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. But anyways, obviously
That's
that
perfectly
I get. I'm
understandable.
that if that was Oracle in that situation, you could be like, okay. But now if it's like just a
Absolutely.
programmatic ad that randomly pops on, not so much. It really depends on the situation. So I guess it depends on what you
100%.
mean there. Are you
Yeah.
referring to like there's actual sponsors, some sort of formal sponsors, or just someone who shows up in the ads?
Dude, it says that this episode was sponsored by Oracle, right? So
Oh shit.
I'll have
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
So like at the
100%.
end of the
So,
episode, I think this episode was sponsored by blah blah blah, like one of those.
but like
All
again,
right.
look into it yourself. I will also do a further deep dive into that as well because I think
Yeah.
that it's at the very least, if that is a reality, I'm concerned. But I wouldn't be surprised considering how many different, I mean, Mike Baker and all the different
Mhm.
beyond the Peter Thiel network that's been brought on Rogan. I mean, and I'm not saying that Rogan's compromised either. Like that's not what I'm saying. I definitely that is I would I very much hope that's not the case, and I can't imagine. I would honestly assume that it would be much more the fact that he's kind of like um, a victim of his own success and in this sort of like bubble of naivete and vulnerable trust in regard to the intelligence community and viewing any sort of CIA operative as some sort of patriotic hero. Yeah, a lot of people are under that misconception. I don't fall into that, but I will say that it I find it very strange that there's an overlapping connection to the Blackwater Eric Prince Peter Thiel finance Mossad's phone, which which apparently when Tulsi Gabbard went on most recently, she also plugged the Eric Prince Israeli Mossad phone. So I think it's very interesting. I think that this IDF phone and individuals who are very much compromised in my mind, because I do believe that Tulsi was at least she went through the World Economic Forum Future Global Leaders program. She was very much proud of that fact also for quite some time until it became kind of was 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 no longer in vogue, right? And people began to uh, become far more skeptical of the Agenda 2030 and these various benchmark items in regard to the Great Reset and Operation Lockstep, that then it became a kind of an area to focus on. And that is when you started to see some sort of like attempted distancing from these in my mind, very realistic, unfortunate claims of her involvement, and it's proven, at this point. And so anyway, I'm concerned that Israeli Unit 8200 and these various entities that compromise American politicians and just the just the aristocracy in general, and these unelected bureaucrats, they have a vision that they're implementing despite the administration involved in power in DC, and that is, in my mind, it's almost undeniable at this point. And so yeah, it
All
could very well be that Oracle was just some AI generated ad on Rogan's episode, and I hope that's the case. I honestly do, because I really don't want to believe that it's even even more of a corrupt system where a lot of these, because I want to be able to at least trust certain personalities in the alternative media landscape. But at this point, I feel like they're flooding that very landscape in the attempt to kind of make us, right, like have our heads just kind of, just swimming with concern and distrust. And it would make sense if you're attempting to kind of corral individuals psychologically back into the establishment narratives, that you would flood the alternative media landscape with disinformation operatives, right? I mean, you would imagine that would be the case. So it's to control the narrative at every level.
Yeah. All right. I have this video here. I've been trying to play for a while.
My bad, brother.
But here's this. This is I guess Ian Carroll supposedly said he suspects Miriam Edison and Donald Trump are kind of a coup against Netanyahu right now. I feel like this ties in because like what is going on with this narrative framing game. We just talked about Netanyahu, so we have this, and I have one more kind of on the narrative framing game of the whole Epstein situation, coming at it from different angles that I find particularly interesting. But here's Ian Carroll, kind of, I don't know, and as someone pointed out in the chat just a second ago, actually, I'll go ahead and bring it up to see if I can find it. Ian Carroll always come out to downplay evil shit. Israel's evil, but Trump's God's proposal isn't so bad. Mossad ran Epstein ops, but there's nothing wrong with the people who got the binders. That is kind of the role he plays. It does kind of seem like he almost copes, but it is like, this can be attributed to just being a political actor, which he's admittedly is. He's supported RFK, supported Trump, so it's like he's going to have these natural biases to kind of be like, oh, guys, let's wait and see. Like always, that's the instinct. Like, let's wait and see. I don't know. Maybe it means this. And like, obviously, to some extent, we're all kind of doing this. We never know. You can't really take any of these, large actions on the political stage at face value. So we're all trying to read stuff into it. But it does seem to be he tends to fall on the side of like, well, I don't know, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. And you're like, well, I don't know if they deserve the benefit of the doubt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just said that to my wife. I'm like,
Yeah.
why on earth at this point would you give these sociopathic reptilian lizard people the benefit of the fucking doubt? Like, how have they earned this? It's just that's absurd to me.
Yeah.
The most. Anyway, go ahead, dude. Sorry.
Yeah, let's go ahead and play this. Let's see what he says. Because once again, as I brought up, like even the one reference I saw people sharing about the Weinstein thing wasn't as bad. So I don't know. Let's see how bad this one is. It sounds pretty bad. Let's go ahead and play it
and talk about it. And
most people in the general public aren't even aware that the Israeli people were protesting against Netanyahu before October 6th.
Yeah, he's about to get kicked out.
Hundreds of thousands of people in the streets. And that it had been going on for a long time.
100%.
Yeah.
I suspect, I'm hoping I'm not blowing the lid on Trump's idea here. I kind of suspect that Trump is kind of in on a coup against Netanyahu right now. This is just my theory.
Now, I do want to throw out real quick, while this does seem ridiculous and we make fun of him, like, obviously, like,
Netanyahu was reinstalled by the Likud. Like, dude, this was not fucking Netanyahu by himself. I'm back in power. No, dude. Yeah, I mean, anybody following Israel understands he had no public support at that time. He was brought back to be crucified at the end of this, in my mind, and be the scapegoat for what effectively is taking place, which is a legitimate genocide, man. So.
Anyways, what I was kind of you're good. What I'm trying to get at is I think if you look at these two things together, obviously we just saw the thing about Netanyahu throwing Ehud Barak under the bus, and now we're seeing Ian Carroll saying, "Oh, he thinks they're in a coup." I don't think he's correct, but I don't know. Maybe he knows something I don't. It would be, I don't know, let's say there is some sort of negativity between us and, the Likud, or specifically Netanyahu. It wouldn't be that crazy of, I don't know, Netanyahu to play some sort of, big time Brinksman game and go, oh, well, I'll just give them Ehud, give them some meat, let them run with that, and be like, kind of give up a little bit, kind of, because if there's a coup, like, hey, this would be his move to kind of move against it. I don't think that's the case, but I don't know. We're just kind of throwing out ideas. So let's say, like, some of this weird stuff, I guess that could be something that would fall in line with if there's some sort of coup against, the United States and, specifically the Netanyahu side of Israeli government. Obviously, the implication here would be that, like, oh, they're still cool with Israel, but not Netanyahu. And maybe there's something to that. I have no idea. That would, I think it would be interesting if the Ehud thing played a piece in that. But I don't know. Let's see if maybe he gives some sort of explanation for this, or if this is just vibes. Because if it's just vibes, man, he's getting some weird vibes, and I haven't been feeling those ones. So let's keep going.
Based upon the way he talked about, like, occupying Gaza, and the way he's friends with Jared Kushner, and the way he's friends with the Adelsons, I suspect that these powerful Jews, like the Adelson type people, are starting to realize that Netanyahu is kind of sinking this ship, and he's kind.
None of that followed. Did any of that follow for you?
No.
All right, I want to hear that again. That makes.
I suspect that these powerful Jews, like the Adelson type people, are starting to realize that Netanyahu is kind of sinking this ship, and he's kind of
I need to go back.
occupying Gaza. And the way, my theory, based upon the way he talked about, like, occupying Gaza.
So the way that Trump talked about occupying Gaza, or maybe he's saying the way that Netanyahu. I mean, this assumes that Trump gives lots of shits about that, which he has not signaled that at all. If anything, he's been calling for violence. So
yeah,
and the way he's friends with Jared Kushner.
So the way he's friends, I'm assuming they mean the way Netanyahu's friends with Jared Kushner. I don't understand how that in any way means what he's implying, that there would be a coup. That just means that they would have a tighter knit relationship between him and Trump. But all right.
And the way he's friends with the Adelsons. I suspect that these powerful Jews, like the
and the way he's friends with the Adelsons. So
weird.
he has this idea that because he's friends with them, I'm thinking the implication is that he's saying Kushner and Adelson are aware and are turning on him.
Adelson type people.
But none of what he just said supports that. They're just saying because they know him. That's all that means.
Are starting to realize that Netanyahu is kind of sinking this ship, and he's kind of fucked it all up, and it's not going well for Israel in the public conversation. Like, I can ratio just about.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they throw Netanyahu under the bus, but I don't know. This seems
That's what I said. They would crucify him.
Yeah.
For all these policies. I mean,
which, as we were just saying, as I was just saying, implying with the Ehud thing, that could be his kind of like oh no, not me, go after Ehud. I know you guys are dealing with this Epstein problem. Ehud, don't forget, Ehud was doing some crazy shit with Epstein. Right. You guys need to keep me around because I'm not like him, And if you send it back, if you get rid of me, these will be the people who fill in the vacancy essentially.
Right. He did Netanyahu just like 5 days ago or something. Like he made. Did you see that whole statement that he put out even on Twitter on his own personal account regarding Donald Trump? He legitimately put out a speech too. I can't remember if it was in English. Yeah, it was legitimately in English, dude. Let's watch it after this.
Yeah,
because it's about Trump. I think it'll be important.
Israel thing, because the public sentiment is just shifting, and it's not.
Okay.
It's not.
All right, as one of our audience members just pointed out, he's talking about the public sentiment, public opinion. Okay, all right. So there's nothing to. If that's what he's saying.
Healthy for anyone, for Jewish people or anyone else.
In regard to what?
And I'd suspect that the powerful.
Well, he kind of shifted it because he's talking about Miriam Adelson and Donald Trump in a coup. And then he kind of then shifted to public opinion is what it's like. And it's kind of amorphously shifted from one thing to another. It's a little bit confused. You get what I'm saying? Like he started as like, and here's why I support that they're having a coup. And then it sort of morphed into here's why the public doesn't like him. Yeah, but I guess then the connection would be that like then the Adelsons and the Kushners are reading the tea leaves, which once again is plausible, but I'm not seeing it yet. So yeah, I don't know.
Jewish people are starting to see that and are starting to scheme on how do we fucking get Netanyahu out of there and put someone in that can actually be and move us towards some sort of peace. Because without a genuine desire for, like, Netanyahu is on fucking camera saying that they have propped up Hamas in the Gaza Strip because they don't want a real government in the Gaza Strip, because it's far better for them to run this occupation and to eventually take the land if Hamas is, I mean, that's not an exact quote. Everyone should look that up for themselves.
But not just propped.
All right, well, I think that's the whole of it really there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it does seem. I mean, maybe. I don't know. Maybe he's onto something. I don't think so. But yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, because it's like, you know, I mean, they don't like him, so like maybe he's right. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point during all of this he gets burned, but it's almost like kind of inconsequential whether it's.
What
I mean, don't get me wrong. I want him to burn in hell for eternity, but like, if Netanyahu comes, it's just another person, you know. So
what evidence is there that Trump and Kushner don't like Netanyahu?
Exactly.
Where's this evidence? Like, none of this makes any sense, man. Like, what did Trump and Elon during the spaces when Doge was first suggested, right? If you remember, before the election took place, what did they do? Their number one criticism of fucking Kamala was that she stood up Bibi when he came to DC.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about? Like, this is honestly one of the craziest narratives I've ever seen. And so let's watch what Netanyahu himself says about our the Moshiach. It's very interesting, but I think it goes to show, who knows? Maybe he is attempting to, protect himself and defend his own personal interest in kind of glazing Trump, basically. But yeah, listen to this dude. Oh, I guess we can't.
Unwavering support. I want to thank President Trump for his unwavering support for Israel. During my recent visit to Washington, I said that Donald Trump is the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House. And President Trump shows that friendship each and every day. He has shown
sucking my cock.
A plan for Gaza. This is a plan which Israel fully supports. He's shown it by sending us all the munitions that were being held up. This way, he's giving Israel the tools we need to finish the job against Iran's terror axis. And he's shown it.
All right, we don't have to watch all this, because I mean, it's kind of just more of this.
You get it.
I get it.
Yeah.
But even then, though, if this is a guy that like thinks he's on the political outs with Trump, like, you would think that he would be like, oh shit, time to fucking up the
That's what I just said. Yeah, that's
kind
kind of how I introduced it, was that if you could see why he would glaze Trump right now if that were the narrative, right? If that
someone
were
in the chat was pointing out, I guess they're saying even CNN's throwing out the breadcrumbs. I don't know, maybe I don't pay attention to establishment news enough, but I just have not seen those breadcrumbs. But maybe I'm just not tapped into the areas where they would drop those breadcrumbs. You know what I mean? Because it's not like I'm watching ABC, CBS, those are the areas where they would start seeding little bits of info of like, oh, Netanyahu, did X, Y, and Z, get that kind of stuff. So I don't know, we'll see. But on the Epstein side of things, let's get back. I have one more story, particularly in this brand of kind of like how maybe the frame game might come in here. I thought this was particularly interesting. We saw this weird Bronze Age pervert, and I think some other like kind of bigger names, which if I recall correctly, I don't really follow these online people enough really to know, but it's my understanding that this guy has basically all but been revealed as essentially some sort of Mossad agent or some sort of intel op or something, and also not really the ripped dude. He pushes himself out as being, because he's like supposedly all about aesthetics and like being super cut, and like he's kind of almost like the red pill type vibe thing. It's like he's from that like mold. And he's actually kind of like a, a skinny fat looking dude that's not really like anything impressive. But either way, the point being is you see him here, and he goes, almost all the girls at Epstein's Island were 18 and over and came back multiple times willingly. There's no evidence of anything under 17 or of abuse. If he did compromise these men, what allowed him to do that? Hysteria over natural attraction to fully grown women. So because he's like quoting this girl that's, or he says, correct me if I'm wrong, but 30-year-old man has no business dating 18 to 23-year-old girl, which I would actually admit, I think that's weird. A 30-year-old and a 18 to 23, maybe 23, maybe depending on how mature the chick is, but It would be annoying, but it is like it's also like they're adults, so like whatever. I mean, you might think it's weird, but whatever. If anything, I think it's just more of a sign of an immature man, but whatever. Point being is they are adults, but the framing Epstein's Island as a more of a pederasty thing instead of pedophilia is I think kind of the name of the game here. Yeah, and this is actually in reference you can see here to like the Pizzagate art. He's kind of commenting on it, which is that shit is disturbing. It even says in the notes here, which is wild. These people still try to get away with it, saying it's inaccurate to say there's no evidence that the victims were under the age of 17. He was indicted for sexual abuse of girls as young as 14, and that's just what he was indicted for. I think if I had to guess, I would think the fix has been in for a long time, where they kind of shied away from the younger kids to make this more of a, oh, look at these rich, powerful guys who want to bang 17, 18, 19-year-olds. So like, oh, and you have all these sickos out there that are like, it's like they're just banging young adults. No big deal. You're like, okay.
My God.
That seems to be the fix in. But we have our buddy Boltzmann Booty saying John Luke Brunel shipped Epstein 12-year-old triplets for his birthday. See, Bronze Age pervert is Barry Weiss, the dumbest quintile of U.S. men. And he is. That is what he is. So he shares this excerpt. It says, in a newly unsealed excerpt from a deposition of Nadia Marshkova, there we go, an Epstein assistant who was accused in civil lawsuits of having perpetrated abuse along Epstein. An attorney asked her, were you with Jeffrey Epstein's birthday when one of his friends sent to him 3 12-year-olds for the purposes of Jeffrey Epstein sexually abusing them? He then asked if these 3 12-year-olds were from France. Were they sent to him on his birthday by Jean-Luc Brunel or by somebody else? Marshkanova invoked the Fifth Amendment to that question and throughout her deposition, which includes multiple still redacted names. Brunel, a French modeling scout, died in the jail cell in 2022 while under investigation by French authorities for his ties to Epstein. Weird how that works. Virginia Giuffre has also recounted the story of 12-year-olds being sent to Epstein in her own court depositions. Previous documents released included information about Epstein's associates and accusers, though much of the information had previously been reported on by various media outlets or released through other court proceedings. Giuffre and Maxwell settled their civil suit in 2017, but some court documents remain sealed until now. Most of the documents from the suit were unsealed in 2019, one day before Epstein died by suicide in jail. So obviously that's a pretty solid pushback on the idea that, it was just 17, 18, 19-year-olds and no big whoop. So, yeah.
No, that's it's a ridiculous justification of like the NAMBLA crowd or some shit, honestly, man. Not surprised either as far as like, did you see, just the recent like 23 senators that came out using the exact same script, and the clips were like word for word in regard to like it was some anti-Trump, right? Some sort of anti-Trump propaganda. It was like 23 different Democrats, but it just kind of like reminded me because I'm just doing this ongoing episode on Mockingbird with William. It reminded me of Mockingbird instantly, right? Because I mean, how many times do we see that happen where we see this like recycled word for word script like perpetuating throughout mainstream media, and people are still kind of like under this misconception that they can sort of rely to any extent on the organized media as it is currently structured. But I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me that they would be kind of like exploiting those Mockingbird assets to kind of run this misdirected false narrative to attempt to justify a lot of the different individuals who are named on the list, right? The Epstein list itself. So that's just how it typically, at least as far as like how the manipulation of the media cycle, that's just how it's kind of status quo, par for the course. But when I was like prepping for all of this, and by the way, when we talked about earlier about Carbine 911 and Ehud Brock and Epstein, and not only that, it was you just the mere fact that you had Michael Chertoff involved is one of the craziest fucking things ever to me, especially because when you understand his connections to the Vegas shooting, it begins to make a lot more sense because he's tied back with Clinton. So of course he would be involved in the Epstein network in regard to, the financing of Carbine 911. And it was even more than that. He was on the board of advisors for that Israeli U.S. intelligence connected surveillance company, and so Michael Chertoff, it looks like, of course, former head of the Department of Homeland Security, who is now on the board of advisors for Carbine 911. He has ties to DHS, Chertoff's company. The Chertoff Group employs several prominent former members of the U.S. intelligence community as principals, including Michael Hayden, which is interesting, former director of the CIA and former director of the NSA, and Charles Allen, former assistant director of Central Intelligence for Collection at the CIA, who worked at the agency for over 40 years. And the Chertoff Group has a long-standing and lucrative contract with the company OSI Systems, which produces full-body scanners and markets itself as a solution to mass shootings and crisis events, not unlike Carbine 911. Now, it's even more interesting because it was the Anon post on 4chan back when the Vegas shooting took place. It was on September 11th, man, of all days, right? Which is kind of ridiculous, but less than a month before the massacre in Vegas, there was this anonymous message posted on 4chan claiming that there was a high incident project underway and that Vegas was the likely target. And that was when the post, it read, "If their plan is successful, state of Nevada will pass a law in the future making all casinos have mandatory metal detectors and backscatter machines. Soon after, a federal law will be passed to put these machines in universities, high schools, federal buildings, you name it. OSI Systems and Chertoff Group are the main producers of these machines. Sometime around 2025, 2030, Chertoff and OSI will merge into a single company." It says, dude. So it almost seems as if Carbine 911 it was potentially the single company that merged ahead of schedule, and after they merge, the owners will sell off all their stock and make billions in profit. Michael Chertoff has been in contact with Sheldon Adelson. Mr. Adelson became a huge sponsor of these machines, and so Adelson, of course, billionaire mega donor and casino magnate, perennial top single donor to the Donald Trump campaign in 2016. Called the Republican Kingmaker. Chertoff, of course, he's linked to the Clinton Whitewater scandal in '95 as an appointee of Bill Clinton, naming Chertoff special counsel. But he was also involved as the lead prosecutor presiding over the trial of the blind sheik, the false flag Omar Abdul Rahman, following the bombing of the World Trade Center building in '93, connecting all the way into modern day Gladio with fucking Omar Mateen and the Pulse nightclub network and Abu Taba, right? Who was a former FBI CIA asset who set up the Islamic radicalization pipeline, which was the seminary course online, and targeted these vulnerable individuals. And so anyway, last point on Michael Chertoff is that not only is he on the board of Carbine 911, he's also a member of the Atlantic Council and was the second United States Secretary of Homeland Security, as I said, listed as one of the authors of the Patriot Act, and was in the convenient position of Assistant Attorney General in charge of criminal investigations on 9/11. So after the underwear bomber fiasco, it was Chertoff who recommended new body scanners for airports, while simultaneously making millions of dollars off his lobbying firm, Chertoff Group, who represented manufacturers of the scanners, in particular Rapiscan, one of the two companies that were contracted by TSA. So, yeah, it's I think
wild shit.
Yeah, we're in very special times. Right? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
very blessed to say that this is the year of the schizo for sure, brother.
Oh, for
Like I
sure.
honestly,
Oh, we're
I
gonna
mean,
kill it this year.
I
But
think so,
we have
brother.
Eddie in the chat. He said Mossad Epstein blackmail ring was more controlled by far right Likud, and also got blackmail on more leftist Israeli politicians like Ehud to control them too. Yeah, that's kind of my read on it. Is how I feel like. I mean, obviously, I could be a little bit wrong, but yeah, Ehud, I'm pretty sure is a more leftist contingency. I mean, don't get me wrong; it's not like they wish goodwill on the Palestinians, but they're like their dealings when it comes to like them is slightly nicer than when it comes to Likud. The Ehud contingency. So yeah, he's a little bit more considered lefty. So I think that's kind of why he's an easy offering. Now we have Stephen DeLay, who I just had on the show recently. It just went public on Friday. Go check that out. The True Detective Season 1 breakdown that I did, or analysis I did with Stephen DeLay. But he shared this, said these hearings will be an indirect window to the Epstein clients in referring to the Cambridge brothel hearings. And so I figured, I haven't read this yet, but I figured I'd go over this with you guys. I'm assuming that the implication here is probably the type of people, the milieu that were attending these. So I just figured it'd be interesting to read this, and I'll take his word for it, and we'll kind of go into that and see what me and Austin pick up as we go. Now it says what to know ahead of the Cambridge brothel hearings. This was written 3 days ago. More than a year ago, 3 individuals were arrested for allegedly operating a network of high-end brothels spanning the greater Boston area and Eastern Virginia. Probable cause hearings will disclose the identities of the alleged customers for the first time, as the judge reviews evidence to determine whether the case will move to the Superior Court. More than a year ago, 3 individuals were arrested for allegedly operating a network. Did I already say that? Is that literally... I hate that they do that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Then so I end up reading it like twice, like a fucking
First
retard.
paragraph. And yeah, I know. It drives me nuts. I'm gonna get more
Now-
coffee. I'm listening though.
Yeah, okay. Now, after all these 3 alleged ringleaders had pled guilty in federal court, the spotlight is shifting to the network's alleged clients. The 28 implicated individuals, including elected officials and professors, are preparing for probable cause hearings the month in the Cambridge District Court. Pick a profession, said then U.S. Attorney Joshua Levy in a 2023 press conference when the original arrests were announced. They're probably represented in this case. Though probable cause hearings are typically private, the Supreme Judicial Court ruled the hearings for the alleged clients must be public after a protracted court battle in which media outlets like the Boston Globe and WUR argued that open hearings would be in the public interest. The probable cause hearings, scheduled for March 14th, 21st, and 28th, will disclose the identities of the alleged customers for the first time, as the judge reviews evidence to determine whether the case will move to the Superior Court. Here's what you need to know about the case ahead of next Friday's hearing. What is the brothel network? Han Lee, Jun Myung Lee, and James Lee were arrested in November 2023 and charged by federal prosecutors with operating sophisticated, high-end brothels in greater Boston and Eastern Virginia, with locations in Cambridge and Watertown, Massachusetts, as well as Fairfax and Tysons, Virginia. The 3 were indicted by a grand jury in February 2024. The brothel network was active from at least July 2020 to November 2023, according to the U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts. According to prosecutors, the 3 persuaded and induced mostly Asian women to travel to Massachusetts and Virginia to engage in prostitution. In addition to renting high-end apartment complexes as locations for the brothels, prosecutors charged the 3 defendants with advertising the network online using 2 professional nude photography websites as fronts for prostitution. James Lee was also charged with money laundering for illegally obtaining more than $580,000 in COVID-19 relief funds that were used to support the brothel network, according to a statement from U.S. Attorney Leah B. Foley's office. James Lee fraudulently applied for funds using the names of businesses that did not exist. To support the loan applications, he submitted fake tax documents in the name of the third party and a lease between himself and his fake identity. Okay, so they were using relief funds for their fucking brothel, so almost $600,000 COVID relief funds. That's nuts. Wow. In attempt to hide the money earned from the brothel network, the 3 conspirators deposited hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash into bank accounts. Prosecutors also wrote that conspirators simultaneously used money orders to pay for rent and maintenance expenses at the apartments where the brothels were housed. Han Lee is set to be sentenced on March 19th. Yun Myung Lee and James Lee will be sentenced at the end of April. All three defendants face one count of conspiracy to coerce the women to travel in interstate or foreign commerce to engage in prostitution, which carries a 5-year sentence and a up to $250,000 fine. The three also all face one count of money laundering, which carries a sentence of up to 20 years in prison and a fine of $500,000. James Lee is also charged with one count of wire fraud. Sentences are imposed by a federal district court based on the U.S. guidelines. With all charges combined, the defendants face at least 25 years in prison and up to $1 million in fines. Who are the clients? The identities of the clients are not public yet. Probable cause hearings, which will decide whether there's enough evidence to charge the network's clients with crimes, will be open to the public and held throughout March in the Cambridge District Court. Those hearings will offer the first public glimpse of who may be charged with paying for sex through the network. Though prosecutors have not released the names of the clients, the U.S. Attorney's Office wrote in a November 2023 press release, the list of alleged sex buyers includes elected officials, high-tech and pharmaceutical executives, doctors, military officers, government contractors that possess security clearances, professors, attorneys, scientists, and accountants, among others. Probable cause hearings are a process unique to Massachusetts and have previously come under scrutiny by media outlets as opaque. The Boston Globe filed the 2018 lawsuit for increased transparency, leading the SJC to issue sweeping changes mandating increased data collection on the hearings. And the SJC first ruled in February 2024 that conducting the hearings in public promotes transparency, accountability, and public confidence. All right, I'm not going to read all of this, but it's because there's only a few sentences. But the long and short of it is that they're getting ready to release these names. I didn't see anything in this about anything other than just normal of age prostitution, which if this is the case, honestly, I mean, I don't know, maybe my religious audience may not like it, but then I think this is a non-story at that point and that should be completely legal. But given the individuals involved, I wouldn't be surprised if there's darker stuff going on. And also, even if there isn't darker stuff going on, considering the type of people, I mean, it might be worthwhile. I mean, it kind of still, it ends up in the realm of smut, sort of, if it is just, them sleeping with of age women. I mean, but I don't know, it's still interesting information if these are political individuals that are doing this sort of stuff. It's worthwhile to know this about them, I guess. But I haven't seen anything, about anything more untoward than just normal run-of-the-mill prostitution. I mean, the implication here is that they were moving women from China. Obviously, I guess the details of that, if it was, they said coercion. I'm going to go ahead and say I doubt that a little bit. I bet you these women had lots of money to make. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they were brought here not of their own volition. If that is the case, then I would support, actual prosecution. But otherwise, yeah, it's just people having sex with grown adults. But if there is anything with kids or anything, obviously, I'd be interested. But this is one of those ones that, I mean, like right now, this is what we see, but I wouldn't be surprised if more darker information comes out later. So one worthwhile keeping an eye on, just because the cast of individuals involved here. And it is interesting that they're pushing on releasing the information. But now are they shielding other information? Like the kind of activities happening at the brothel? I don't know. I have no idea. This could be just completely on the up and out normal prostitution.
Do you know? Because I'm interested to know if it follows the same pattern of the RICO indictment, because that tends to that tends to happen in regard to like Diddy,
wire fraud for one of them, because they remember, I think you caught it. They used up to around $600,000 in COVID relief funds to they applied for those loans.
Yeah,
which is insane if you're running a fucking whorehouse.
No shit.
So then they also have they're facing counts to coerce the women to travel. So which I don't know what the coerce is carrying a lot of weight there. What do you mean by coerce? So does that just mean leave? That is really coerce. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out more untoward information. So it is I'm kind of at a crossroads here. Given the people involved, I am interested. But I mean, I don't know. This could be a big nothing burger. But I don't know. It's worthwhile mentioning. I think, yeah. That's
what I always found strange about Deborah Jean Palfrey and the her prostitution ring that she was running. It's interesting because I covered it briefly in my Confessions of a DC Madam episode, because it really just provides the perfect parallel to what happened in the Craig Spence Henry Vincent operation, and and yeah, I found it interesting because they kind of leveraged her silence through the RICO indictment in many ways, the same as like what they tend to do, what they were doing with I believe Diddy and Epstein as well, because the whole point being is that they could essentially, leverage their silence in regard to the co-conspirators by the ultimate, like, I mean, with RICO, you can charge people for like insane, like counts of I think Deborah Jean Palfrey was she was hit with like a 43 count RICO indictment, and she was like staring at like 300 years of jail time, and so yeah, she and a $2 million fine, and so she was being threatened to. They were even apparently the feds were threatening to indict her mother as well. And so if they want to leverage your silence, they can, very efficiently achieve that goal. I think there are many ways to do such a thing, but yeah, I'm interested to see kind of the sleight of hand and how it takes place in regard to this story, because if there are any real, prominent individuals who are named as clients on this list, then yeah, you're going to have some sort of consequences in regard to their reaction and attempted. In my mind, you're always going to have this sort of sleight of hand taking place in regard to the client lists of these very well-established prostitution rings. And so yeah, I'm kind of under the impression that, yeah, I'm sure it's been leveraged for sexual blackmail, despite the fact they weren't underage, allegedly, the prostitutes, because it was the same context with Deborah Jean Palfrey, right? And I think that is that's very interesting and worth noting, because Palfrey her prostitutes weren't underage, as far as I'm aware. But as soon as she became willing to admit that she was running this service with this sort of cooperation with government officials who were benefiting from her client list, that's the fucking point that I think people don't recognize as often as they should, because it seems as if, yeah, they even target you with compromised representation. You know what I'm saying? So like you will be convinced that your acting attorney has your best interests at heart, and in reality they're compromised and working on behalf of the prosecution. And that happens a lot. That was Greta Van Susteren in that case with Miss Palfrey. So yeah, I think it's very interesting, especially because in that case there were subpoenas that were authorized for AT&T, Sprint, Nextel, T-Mobile, Alltel. So like you have like, because of the names and addresses of the individuals contacting the service, so if you have an honest investigation taking place, then all of that should go public, as far as at least be reported on. Yeah, but anyway, when did this come forward, or when did these charges?
I just exited out of the article. I think it was from like I want to say it was like a year or two ago or something, but it's just kind of like, how the political, the legal system goes. So it's just kind of just now happening. So they're just now, I guess, getting ready to release that, or go into the public hearings, which is going to release the names. So that'll be interesting.
She was basically forced to accept a plea agreement in her case, Deborah Jean Palfrey, where the feds basically included a caveat that was not at all overtly stated in the plea agreement. And again, this is how they conduct the cover-ups, right? And so she says her 5-year sentence was based on the contingency that she not divulge a word about the particulars of her case to the media. So she was essentially, put under it's very interesting to witness how they effectively achieve these federal cover-ups. But anyway, I wouldn't be at all surprised if you see very similar circumstances in regard to that story.
Someone just said, just confirming you guys see RFK Jr. as the cuck he is, right? Yes. I've been pretty over the top upset about him for a while. And I feel like I'm like out of touch with a lot of the people in my sphere, because everyone's like, oh, he's so great, this and that. And I'm like, And like, sure, like it is a forward facing, but like, do you really not realize what a cuck bitch he is for Israel? It's just,
For real,
it's just
man.
such a ridiculous level. But all right, brother, what do you say? You ready to get out of here? You good? I
Yeah,
think
man.
we're at a good point. My wife's giving me evil eyes from across the house a couple times, so I think it's
Sounds
about
good,
time to
brother.
kill it. We'll be back. I don't know if I'm gonna be here tomorrow. So, but I don't know if you can run tomorrow. Maybe you'll do tomorrow. I think I'm gonna pick up a shift tomorrow. But with that, I don't know. Keep an eye out. I don't know. Maybe Austin will drop one tomorrow. I don't think I will. So keep an eye out for a morning dump. But with that, Austin, let them know where they can find you at. We'll get out of here. Also, guys, keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for that tinfoil hat. I do want to remind you guys can get merch from us on toplobster.com. Go to the Already Dead spot. You got Already Dead merch, and then you also got like the Yiki, trying to do some other stuff in there, the Gladio stuff. I guess I need to buy one. I'm going to. But with that, Austin, let them know where they can find you at. We'll get out of here, bud.
All right, brother. Sounds good, man. Yeah, you guys know, just follow me at the Underclass Podcast, basically anywhere. I'm gonna kind of prioritize focusing on really workshopping my vision for the next upcoming solo episode that I'm going to do. Basically, I think I'm going to cover something in regard to either the Spartacus Network or the Odyssey Foundation. It's one of the two. They've been, calling from afar.
I'd say
for
put them
quite some
together.
time.
They're kind of the same thing.
I
but
might
then
have
we're gonna
to.
get a 6-hour
See what
movie.
happens.
So.
Yeah, don't tell me, dude. I know, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
going to have to again
I would say workshop it as together and then see where you get. And if you're like at like 2 hours with only one concept, maybe break it into two.
pull the plug, man. 100%. But yeah, so be on the lookout for that. But also keep in mind, I just did William Ramsey,
More of those.
and again, I hope he's not mad at me because I basically went on and talked about everything but Mockingbird.
Yeah. It
So
became a
he did
Gladio
say,
episode, basically.
yeah, he said something about part 5. So hopefully that comes to fruition. But
I'm sure it will. Yeah.
yeah, but beyond that, Sam hit us up late on last Friday, so we did another whatever this is. I put it behind the paywall. I believe I published it yesterday. I'm pretty sure that's when I published it anyway. Doesn't matter. But yeah, go check it out. We kind of discussed similar things because that was like the day that Ian Carroll was the hysteria was at a maximum, kind of at a climax. But it was a good conversation, and seeing as he knows him personally, it provided a little additional context that I think is important to acknowledge at the very least.
Yeah, you're doing a regular show with him. Beginning now, tell Sam to get him on our show.
I know, right? Like we just need to. I love all of this, the cross pollination, and we're building some shit, brother, and I think we should be proud of that. But anyway, so the year of the schizo is officially underway, but nothing but love for everybody as always, and yeah. Anyway, appreciate your support. Definitely support the Patreon if you have the means to. But beyond that, have a good Sunday, everybody.
Hell yeah, brother. Thanks for joining me, Austin. I'm sure we'll do another one soon. If not Tuesday, we got another already did on Tuesday. But yeah, those who want to support the show, and if you don't want to chip in a buck, you can like, share, subscribe, comment, stuff along those lines. You'll leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. That type of stuff helps out a lot. And hey, if you don't have any money, that's fine. That stuff helps. But if you do got some cash to give up, cash is king, baby. And I'm sure Austin can attest to this. Go support him. Go support me as well. Patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. The lowest level is $2 a month, where you get the early access to the episodes. I'm shooting for about 2 a week these days. It's about 1 to 2 a week, and I usually have multiple behind the paywall. So you're getting quite a decent little value there. Plus, you're also getting an ad-free RSS feed, and then on top of all of that, you can come on the video call on Already Dead, which is me and Austin's weekly live show on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. But yeah, my highest levels, my sponsors, I read them off every episode. My co-host on Tower Gang, at Tower Gang Toad, also at EbbergateDees, at ZOVERICK, at _Infinite Zeal, Tim Tuttle, at Jolly on Klebold, then Will Bell's Delicious Blueberry Rabbit Eye Wine, big fan of the show, Torn Mate, and then at INWARD Lover. Yeah, make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, follow me on Twitter at Tower Gang Jose. That's the best spot to give me suggestions if you want me to cover anything on the show. And with that, we are out of here. Deuces.